All right, guys. Hey, happy Sunday. Another day that the Lord has made. We done made it through another week. The wife ain't feeling good this week, so I don't think she'll be joining me. But I just want to come in, guys, and I just want to look back and how the Lord, the Word of God is so true. You know, the Bible speaks of in the end times how, mother be against daughter or daughter against mother, son against father, father against son, and all of that is so true. And I look at myself, how, my mother, she says she sent us to church. That's true. She didn't go to church with us, though. So I'm looking, even though my grandmother was a holy woman, and my grandmother told me she used to pray for all of us, call us all out by name, and we had a real big family. And I believe her prayers protected a lot of us for years. And even after we was grown, and then I'll be honest, now that I sit back and look, I mean, yes, I had some uncle that was killed back when I was real young, and different things. Things still happen, but I do believe prayer protects the family or who you praying for, And now that I sit back and I'm just thinking about things, a lot of the death, even though my grandmother that was saved was on my mother's side, but she still prayed for me and my father and his siblings, and throughout the generations that she was here. And I sit back and I think that a lot of deaths after my grandmother passed, a lot of us started dying. A lot of my family, my nieces and nephews, they started dying young. So I sit back and I think about things now and just realize how God's word is so true. And then when it speaks of just the way you live life and not living for Him, you don't see it at the time, but eventually you're going to see that things don't work out the way they should if you're not serving the Lord. So me as a young man, I ran around, I never served the Lord. I didn't start serving the Lord till I was 39. And, I look at, 3 different baby mothers, 4 kids. And I'll be honest, that's what I know about. And I just think if I would have, as a young man, been brought up in the church and served God from an early age, even though I know some saved people that truly love the Lord, you can still have a problem with your kids. But, it's in there. Whatever you teach them while they're young, it sticks with them throughout life. So the Word of God is true. So even though they might stray, they still somewhat grounded and they come back. And, that happened with me. I was sent to church early on 8, 9, 10, I don't know. I gave my life to the Lord. Didn't know what I was doing. But eventually, 40 years, 30 years later, I'm saved. I was saved. So, but I look at, even now, dealing with my grandkids, I'm living holy. A lot of they cousins and the other side of the family, and even within my family, it's just a few of us that claim the Lord. and truly trying to live for the Lord. So, you got all of this influence around, so it's hard to break through. I try to keep the grandkids that I'm in contact with because, I got a couple of daughters that, honestly, one of them act like she just, it's hard for me to say this, guys, but just don't like the fact that I'm saved, that I serve the Lord. And, she came up and, she would let the baby stay. In the summer, she was staying south. And she like, oh, y'all keep her for 2 weeks, but, you can't take her to church. Me taking the child to church is not harming that baby. But she would get mad, then she send them over by her cousin's house. And so I just look at how the Bible say, like, you save your kids, they or even friends, they'll be against you when you save. They don't like you. They don't like your lifestyle. And I just look at how me not being saved, marrying one woman, sticking with one woman, having kids where I can bring those kids up the way I want to within one household, how big of a difference that would make. Now, I love all my kids. I love them all. Even though, like, I have family members trying to tell me, sisters and brothers, how to, how I should interact with my kids, and they grown, and they never even really interacted with their kids, even when the kids was young and up to now. But you want to tell me how to parent and how to do things when you never did. See, I just, so, don't tell me how, I need to bow down to my kids and I need to do this and I need to do that. No, I'm standing firm on God. And if people around me, my kids, whoever can't accept that, that's on them. I'm not changing, especially when it comes to the Lord, for nobody on this earth. My wife can say, I'm going back out in the streets and be why. My granddaughter tell me all the time, that ain't how you spell bye. My brother Lee used to say that all the time, B-Y. So that's so it's just a joke. But I'm not changing and curving my ways for nobody against the Lord. Because guess what? They ain't curving their lives to be for the Lord for me. So don't tell me how to act and how I need to treat my kids and all of this. These are things that I go through. When I first met, me and my wife had no kids. She couldn't have kids. Like she always say, if I could have had kids, we'd have 14 of them running around. Probably true. And they would have all been brought up in the household. Now, one thing about all of that is like when I first met her, I told her right away, and I would tell anybody that I was dealing with, when I first meet them, my kids come first. And I need it for the women, and well, I'm not even saying women, my wife now, I needed her to understand my kids come first. I think my oldest, when I met my wife, girlfriend at the time, she might have been 14 or 15. Kids come first. And I think the kids took that and thought that, they could manipulate me and her relationship. No. That ain't what was going on. So when my kids got grown, 18, 19, and they were still trying to cause mess with my wife, after they was grown, I had to switch it up on them and tell them, because I think about that time, we had probably just got saved, but it didn't matter. Yeah, we had got saved because we got married. But to the few that were still up under age, they came first. I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to do the right thing. And even right now, my grandkids come first. But once they get grown, I had to tell my older daughters, I'm like, my wife comes first. Y'all are grown now. My wife comes first. All of this, that, and the other don't even matter. My wife comes first. So it just caused a lot of, riffraff, within the family. And, like I said, I got a daughter that, she talk about source and this and that, and, that's who she prayed to, and I don't know. Source, as far as I know, is what our news channel be talking about, for the weather. Source, but anyway, I sometimes, when I got the family around doing Christmas or something, we do a Merry Christmas. So I was down visiting, and I wanted her to do a Merry Christmas for me for, that upcoming Christmas, And the daughter got really upset. And, don't air it, I don't want it, so when it come to me filming somebody, if they tell me, because there's been a few different people say, hey, don't put me on the channel, I won't put you on the channel. I'm going to respect you, regardless of who you are. But, that same daughter come up just last summer, and I'm, for the first time, I'm helping my mother gardening. We're doing it again this year, planting a few watermelons. I think only one of them turned out up in this area that I'm in. But, I'm checking the plants. She had to come because she was moving overseas for a while. I think she's back in the States now. They don't keep up, let me know what's going on. But she put these stones all around the house by the plants where I had the plants at, because I had watermelons growing in big pots or whatever, and some, I just had them different places. And she had these stones, so I called her, and she said, I asked her, she said, oh, it's to help them grow. I said, I got God to help the plants grow. This, that, and that, but that's disrespecting me and my faith. Same thing she said when I go to visit her, I can't take, or the granddaughter come to visit, I can't take her to church. How do you want me to respect what you praying to and the sources that you dealing with? And but if I went down to her house and went to her garden and put crosses, this ceiling would have hit the fan. So these are just things that I deal with as a Christian. And like I said, it just goes back to say in the end times how people are going to be at each other's throats, you know, father against the mother, the daughter and son and vice versa. And, you know, I never know. I'm trying to teach my grandson, my granddaughter, and my other grandson. Those are the ones that I have kind of got 5 grandkids. I got 2 that I'm in contact with all the time. The other one, my son's son, I see him, but, you know, they don't keep in contact as much as me and the grandkids that you see on this channel, you know. But, you know, with all of that, I'm trying to teach them. Don't be out here sleeping around. You know, I don't want them to make the same mistakes I made. I remember my son one time told me, said he felt cheated because how my nephews and everybody, how I taught all of my nephews when I was out in the street. Well, see, I was taught by my older brother, my oldest brother, Ernest. I don't say too many names, but he taught me a lot about the streets, how to handle the streets, how to carry myself. Well, I pass it on to the nephews, nieces, you know, teaching them. By the time I, you know, start having kids, you know, I realized if I would have went to school would have been the better way. So I made sure that my kids and my nephews and nieces after that, I try to teach them the right things. And my son, about the time he came along, I wasn't trying to teach him the things of the world, the things of the street. You know, I think my son was about 5 when I got saved. So he told me he felt cheated. No, you don't feel cheated. I don't want you to go through the things that I went through. I want you to be better than me. I want to teach you and line you up and set you up to be better than me. But it's a hard battle. And my son know the way, you know. He speaks of God, you know. Do we follow him in his own way? Which I guess I do and a lot of other people do too. But he knows the way. But I try to teach these grandkids, start off doing the right thing. Find a nice woman, stick with that one, wait till you know. I know it's hard these days. Sex is everywhere. But I'm still trying to teach them. Don't spread yourself around like that. I've been through it. It's not the way to go. Because I see it now with my kids. Because I had 3 different households to take care of. Plus the household that I was in. You know. With me, my son, and my wife. Taking care of these other... Well, 2 households. It was 3 altogether, mine and 2 more. Wealth spread out in Deuteronomy. It explains. Your wealth will be spread out within households when you live. It's right there in the Bible. So here at my age, I'm looking and I see all of that. My grandkids, they can't see it. By the time I got saved, my kids was, you know, most of my kids was somewhat teenagers or grown, really grown. And I had 2 underage, and, you know, one was in Milwaukee, and I really seen her, you know. She never wanted to come down, but now, you know, her kids are down here all the time, and when they get in trouble, they call dad. Call her dad, call granddad, because, you know, my son even the same way. his son get to acting up, he know. He called me, you know, and I'm going to talk to the kids and try to keep them in line. But, you know, teach your kids, and if anybody young watching this, start out in the right way. Don't have kids in all these different households. It ain't going to turn out good. You want your kids in your household where you can raise those kids, and you and the mother, hopefully, because, you know, you can have that too. You can have kids in the same household, and one parent trying to teach them one way and the other parent trying to protect them, and they're not on one accord. You got to be on one accord when it comes to your kids. And consistency is the main thing. So yeah, I remember my grandson, he was 6 months. First come down, my wife started moving. She got a lot of knickknacks on the table back then, and she started picking stuff up, putting stuff. I said, "What you doing?" "Oh, I'm going to get the grandbaby tomorrow. He gonna be," I said, "No." I said, "Leave that stuff there." She said, "He gonna be messing with, you know, some of his glass and everything." I said, "Leave it there." She said she couldn't believe it. The first 3 hours that he was down there. Nope, stop, tap his hand, stop, nope, you know, stop. 3 hours. Then it got to the point where he would go to reach for something and he'd look up at me, and then he'd pull his hand back, then he would reach again and touch it. Nope, stop. The next day, he wasn't worried about nothing on those tables. We never had to move nothing off the table. He never messed with the knickknacks, the stuff on the table. Right now, my brother's daughter, sometimes we keep her son, you know, and he's like 8 months, 9 months, so, you know, she have to work, give my brother a break. Him and his wife, we keep him, keep the little boy, you know, same thing with him. I don't know what they allow you to do at home, but when you here, you can't do what you want. And he's a smart little young man too. So I try, I love the kids, I deal with all the kids in the neighborhood, but I'm showing them one thing, but you got a whole other families and everybody and friends, and I tell my kids all the time, it only takes a second to get into trouble, and sometimes a lifetime to get out of it. So hey, everybody, you guys be blessed. Hope I didn't rattle on too long, but man, one wife, one family, one household. It's the way to go. All right, everybody have a good Sunday. God bless you all.